What about now? We looking good now and sounding okay? 0 times 5. What's happening here? I don't know. I wish I knew, white collar. 5 by 5. Thank y'all. Sorry about that. Good morning. Didn't we just do this, folks? For y'all that are in the coffee club and Patreon, didn't we just do this last night? Yeah. Sorry about that. I think it was on my end. I don't know what happened. Everything was good. I'm running on fumes today. And also, let me just say real quickly before we get started, Squatch America sent this over. Thank y'all. It's linked down below. It's really good. I'm running on fumes and I'm running on Bigfoot coffee. That's pretty good stuff, I got to say. So thank y'all very much for that. I'm not sure if they're in the chat. They were live streaming last night and actually talking to the folks at Bigfoot Coffee Company. And one of the owners was wearing a Bigfoot mask. So there you go. I'm getting ready to go live and I'm sitting here looking at my hair. I'm trying not to get a haircut before I do the meet and greet. And I'm over here. It's grown out. I'm looking like Ice Cube. I'm in desperate need, son. So to jump right into it this morning, Kelly Rodolph, congrats on being first yet again. And we are getting ready. Yeah, I'm definitely, Brian, proving that he is tech illiterate. If you hang around for a little while, you'll know this. New level of it hitting the fan, SHTF. This comes from all kinds of different places. Y'all sent me a ton of intel. I linked it down below from oilprice.com. They're estimating throughout the summer worldwide 1 billion with a B people are going to be subject to rolling blackouts. Now, they go on to list a bunch of different countries, but then when they get to the United States, it's very interesting. They say basically every major city is in trouble and we'll see some sort of a rolling blackout. They go on to specifically mention the entire state of California, the entire state of Texas. This is a direct quote. They said, you'll be facing a supply storm. So they're combining this now with the supply chain. Every time there's a storm or wind, even wind, they're saying can lead to rolling blackouts. And coincidentally, as I take a sip of coffee here like Kermit the Frog, son, y'all remember that meme? A train in Nebraska Thursday derailed, and it was carrying coal, and they lost 30 cars, just saying. Yep. Shocker, big shocker. The coincidences keep piling up, don't they? All planned, Jack says. It looks more and more like that every day now, doesn't it? You know, it can't just be something randomly blowing up. It's got to be a food plant, or it can't be a train derailing unless there's corn or coal or something like that. But rolling blackouts are coming. I think it's pronounced MISO or MISO. It's spelled MISO. They're an energy provider. They provide for 15 states here in the United States of America. Let me see here. And they say, and this is a direct quote from them, insufficient power generation. They already know this is a huge issue. The 15 states they provide for, which should be listed in the intel down below, it's going to affect 42 million Americans, is the estimate again this summer. They go on to specifically say that it's going to be the next 5 years or so, folks. And if you do the math, that's putting us really close to 2030. Just saying, for those that keep up with that. A direct quote from them is about 70% of America's grid is nearing the end of its life. So the grid is outdated, it's falling apart, or that's what they would have us believe anyway. They, again, in this article, they specifically mention part of the reason is this transition into going green, and that this is a huge issue as well. And then they end the article. It's very weird. They end the article by saying, if the grid breaks down this summer, it's a sign of things to come for this winter. So you take a look at the winter, and now they're telling you in the wide open, you may be sitting in the dark while there's social chaos going on, while people are fighting over abortion rights, while they're attacking the Second Amendment, while people can't afford groceries and gasoline. Hey, you might be sitting in the dark as well. So I wanted to open with that because it is a huge issue. It's one of the top 3 things I'm prepping for. We'll get into that in a moment. The 7th hour, thank you. They might just be setting up a savior situation, or some other con. That makes sense. It's always a con. There's always some kind of con, some kind of plan at the end. Independent Marine, good morning, brother. How you doing? Philly Flash, I'm going off grid soon. Well, 42 million Americans might be joining you, whether they want to or not. And again, they said major cities here in the United States. There are other countries listed as well, but the entire state of California and the entire state of Texas, they're saying we don't know if we can keep the lights on throughout the summer, not even the winter. So yeah, y'all actually inboxed me that, and there's a ton more to go with it. It was all over mainstream media, but it was one of those footnote deals. You know what I mean? Should be a headline, but of course, with everything else going on in Texas, this kind of got slid under the rug, if you will. Conservative California, they shut the power off when it's windy because PG&E let the lines go and the wind breaks them and causes fires. Yeah, I mean, they're saying that the grid as a whole, 70% of it's just frail to the point of no return. And what happens to renters when all of this happens? You're going to be in the dark too. I would suspect you're going to be in the dark, like everybody else. Diesel runs the power stations, yeah. And with the diesel shortage, they know this is coming. They're using the reserves they have right now when it's not randomly being destroyed. See what I did there? Randomly. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. Time. This was sent over by Laura. This thing is bossing. I mean, that's awesome. I'm going to go ahead and put that one on this morning. Sorry, Bama Jen, but thank you for being here, ma'am. As we discussed last night in the private chat. Oklahoma Tech, that's an excellent point. Texas supplies power to a lot of states. Apparently, their grid is in trouble as well. Again, that's the official story. Now, I don't know how frail it is, but they're saying that it's already wavering. And again, with the diesel shortage and the coal shortage and stuff, they're not going to be able to keep the lights on for everybody this summer, much less this winter. It's going to be a lot worse this winter, right when all the chaos hits, right? So the poll this morning was not my poll. I can't take credit for it. This came from Elon Musk. He asked this over on Twitter. And the reason I went with this poll is he really has both crowds following him on Twitter. He has a lot of conservatives now, and he still has a lot of liberals. And he asked the question, which do you trust less, politicians or billionaires? And it's pretty close. Our live chat this morning is pretty close to what came across on Twitter. Twitter, 76% said they trust politicians less. And the live crowd this morning, 82% say politicians, that you trust them less. I agree, and here's my reasoning on this. Neither one, I don't trust either one of them. But if I have to pick one, it's politicians, because they're spending my money, and they waste it. You know, they're the ones that are sending money to everybody but America, right? It's not being spent here. Kenneth, thank you. I'm going to start biting ankles if things get any worse. It's driving me crazy. Well, we're going to talk on that this morning. I understand where you're coming from, but that's why we're putting in the work now, so we can be prepared, so we don't have to struggle like everybody else. So even though it does suck, and I get where you're coming from on that, at the end of the day, we are going to be in much better position than, I would say, 75% of America. Yeah, well, ink scars, hang on to that for a minute. Dust it back off. I'm going to need it right here in a second. Beto O'Rourke, as some people are calling him now, Beta with an A, O'Rourke. He has officially switched his position on guns yet again. Of course, he's running for governor of Texas. This came out this morning, and they updated the information on his official website, his stance on guns. Originally, he said he was coming after the ARs and the rifles, and then he said, nah, and I'm paraphrasing here. He said, nah, son, I'm just playing. You can keep it. If you have it, you can keep it. But now he's saying you better believe we're coming after him in Texas if I become governor. This dude jumps around like a frog in a tube sock, son, on his stance when it comes to guns. We were talking about him a whole lot last night, and that's gonna air tomorrow night. Actually, today's Friday, right? Yeah, tomorrow night on Shotgun, that conversation's coming. But if you're in Texas, please get out and vote. Whether you believe it works or not, please at least try. Don't let this man just take it over in Texas, because it's over at that point. Tony says, let the revolution begin. It probably would if he comes for guns, Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Taxation without representation. It's theft right now because we're not being represented. There you go, X-Cars. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. We got into it last night in the conversation where he had interrupted Abbott's press conference right after all that stuff went down in Texas, and how it was a crappy political move, and really the timing was really, really bad, and it just didn't need to be politicized at that time. But I knew then and there he's trying to jump his poll numbers up, and he's trying to go after the guns in Texas, one of the conservative strongholds, or at least it used to be. Hopefully we keep it that way. Adam, the big cities are turning into liberal-controlled havens. Most of them already are. They have been for a very long time. Oh, gosh. Minuteman, I see that. Let me see here. Yeah, Adam, you got me off track, Minuteman. The cities, the bigger cities that are having all the trouble, if you go back and you dig around and you find out when the last conservative mayor was there in office, you'll see it's usually the 60s, maybe the early 70s. And they've had liberals in charge ever since. And you see the end result. Renewed and forgiven. I love the name. No power, no jobs, no paying rent. Well, this is Joe's America. If we run into that situation, he'll just print more money and send out rent checks and all this stuff. We've been there before with the pandemic. Salty Gummer, no more voting. It's time to abolish these tyrants. No argument here. Okay, I got you. I got you, brother, in Texas, not in cities. It's becoming the new California. That's what liberals believe anyway. Oh, Toon Master. The problem is this kid was actually on the run from the police. Yeah, I did see that about the grandmother and all that stuff there. I'm trying to jump around keywords that'll trigger the algorithm, but yeah, there are a lot of problems there with that. We talked about this a little last night, DJ. I trust the local process. The state, I'm still on the fence about. The federal process, I don't really trust it, but I don't know what else to do about it. You know, the way I look at the federal process is if they are going to steal it, I'm not just going to hand it to them. You have to at least try, but I understand where you're coming from and where it may not matter and how we can't trust it. I get it. Red Tyrant Hunter, great advice. Patriots, don't fire the first shot. Counter violence, folks. Counter violence. Then we King George there. There you go. Absolutely. 100%. So I got to ask this morning, are we still the crazy ones? Is that still the official story for the zombies? You know how they've always said we're crazy and all this stuff. Are we still the crazy ones? Someone mentioned last night that her son, I think it was her son, had called her to find out how he could use the groceries he had on hand, like how he could extend the life of them. So people are waking up, and she was furious over this. Like, why haven't you been prepping? Type of furious. Oh, we're still the crazy ones, Oklahoma? I would rather be crazy and eat, I guess. Michelle, there you go. Let them think that. Keep them at bay a little bit longer. Prepper trucking. What's the next probable step to be taken? Herein lies the problem, brother. As Red Tyrant Hunter was saying, you can't fire the first shot because you don't want to be illegal about anything. But sitting around and waiting is not helping much either. I don't know what the next step is. It kind of feels like we're just reacting all the time. We're always reacting, and we're never on offense, if you will. But to go on offense makes you illegal at that point, and they throw you in the slammer. So I don't know. That's an excellent question. I think short term, at least, the next probable step for us is to make sure we have what we need, because it's going to be a really long. The second half of the year is going to be a mess. I mean, a mess. Next level SHTF. You don't want to starve. You don't want to be miserable when the grid does finally fail. And you don't want to be one of these people that have to rush out and get groceries in the middle of all the chaos, right? So you just want to make sure you have what you need now, and you want to be stacking ammo, which I'm sure you already are. Embrace the crazy, or embrace the suck. Oh, Florida based. It is going to get much, much worse. Yeah, we've left the station, but we ain't seen nothing yet. I'm not trying to discourage anybody. Ammo costs more right now. Food costs more everything costs more right now, but it's still available. And there's still the illusion that everybody's getting along, well enough for society to function. That's going to go out of the window during the midterms, if not before, because of the abortion and the Second Amendment stuff going on. When that goes out of the window, you have no chance to get this stuff anymore. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Michael G., how much longer will people continue to take the government's abuse? I don't know. During the pandemic, I thought people would stand up a lot sooner than they did, and there would be a lot more people stand up and say, we're not going to do this. But I saw a whole lot of submission, and I didn't like what I saw. They have the media, and we have to fight smarter, Daniel. Yeah, you got to be smart. You got to outthink these people. They're trying to get a reaction. Oftentimes, do y'all remember, it wasn't, the whole witch hunt at the Capitol and all of this stuff, but do you remember when it was announced that there was going to be another rally, and the media was like encouraging patriots to go to this thing. They were trying to get them out to get an illegal reaction so they could get more people arrested. Yeah, you got to outsmart these people. They're using the media against us. They're using the media against everybody, but patriots specifically. Exactly. If you go crazy, please don't go crazy, y'all. If you go crazy, you're just falling for their plan. When the fight comes, and the fight will come, they want the least amount of resistance possible. And every single person that does something illegal and goes to jail, that's one person that we don't have to fight back when that time comes. And Douglas, don't ever give up your guns. That would be correct. Rascal Dog, good morning. There's no question we're being manipulated. This is why mainstream media exists and why it's controlled by a handful of families. I did. Two-wheel prepper, I did indeed. Again, they were trying to get people, sign up for this and show up. They want to know who you are. They want to know where you're from. They want to know everything about you. And they want to nail you all in the same place at one time doing something illegal. Don't make their job easier. The dude says media doesn't exist when you take out the broadcast tower. Problem solved. Just go and tie the guide towers. Yeah, if the problem is if they catch you, you going underneath a prison somewhere. Get to know your sheriff, yes. And if you're thinking about relocating, I know that a lot of people have backed off of that because of the price of land and stuff. I know I have. Research that heavily. When you're making that decision, look at the sheriff, look at the track record of maybe the last 20 years. How has the town or the city or wherever you're considering, how have they voted in terms of the sheriff? If you have somebody that's constitutional and they've been conservatives for the last 20 years, it's probably a decent move. Yes, ma'am. Bama Jen. Everyone better be packing heat every day, all day. All day, every day. Yeah, Chrissy says my nephew was working on the voting polls and saw a lot of them going to a party being ignored. Yeah, I mean there's so much evidence. People were filming. They would go in and they would vote and they would watch on the screen as their vote toggled to somebody else. And the problem is you have all this evidence out there. I mean, there's literally a documentary pointing at a bunch of the evidence, and nobody has done anything about it. So, at the federal level, at least, I've lost most hope. I'm still going to go out and I'm still going to try, but I've lost most of my faith in the federal level elections. This is just me. So, gas here, I just need to mention, is holding steady. I can't believe I'm cheering for this, but it's holding steady at $4.49 a gallon. It hasn't went up probably at least since Monday. I don't think it's went up here. Welcome, Miss Z. Yeah, it is interesting, and it's straight from Elon Musk. I can't take credit for it. I just thought it was an interesting poll. Rascal Dog, it just stopped raining maybe 45 minutes ago. It's been hammered down all night. It's allergies, brother. It's allergies. Anytime I do any kind of yard work, mow, anything like that, weed eat, my wife gets on to me. She says, wear a mask when you do this. And I just can't stand it. I feel like I can't breathe with one on. So, it is my fault. I go out there without a mask on, but it's allergies, man. If you've never been to this area of the country, it's crazy right now because we have like a table out front, on the deck, and you can almost every day you can take a baby wipe or something and literally wipe the pollen off the table. I mean, you can see it. You can see the yellow powder stuff just sitting there, $4.99 at Virginia Beach. $4.89 with a mad face. I don't blame you. $4.69. Yeah, I've had a couple people here locally mention that to me. A couple of my friends. Grammy's house says it's holiday weekend. It will go up by this afternoon. I did stop and fill up yesterday in anticipation of it, but I mean, even then, $4.49 is ridiculous. $5.20 in Phoenix. My last year of high school, when I was, I just started driving. I was a senior. It was 99 cents. So I'm not trying to complain too much about $4.49, but it's very odd. I don't like it. I'm not used to $4.49 a gallon. So, I saw in the chat earlier before I went live, somebody, and I think they said a crackhead or something, I don't know, said they stole their truck and they were upset about it. And I wanted to mention this because you're going to see, I think from here to the end of the year and beyond, you're going to see a huge uptick in theft. People that are having to pay more for everything now, they're more prone to steal stuff. So you need to keep this in mind. Like lawnmowers, I know lawnmowers sometimes are popular here. Vehicles, things like this, gas out of your car. And I also want to mention, if you own property, be on the lookout for people that may be hunting on your property without your permission. I don't know how huge of an issue that is for some people. It does tend to happen here from time to time. Marcus, thank you. SHTF is definitely in progress. Yeah. Wait till high prices at the supermarket isn't a problem anymore, but food scarcity in the shelves. At that point, the zombies wake up and decimate all remaining food. Game over. You're exactly right. When the zombies start hoarding food, it's over. Your window of opportunity as a prepper is gone, because it's going to be a total free-for-all. And at that point, they're going to blame anybody that has food. So you're going to go, I think, from you're the crazy one to how dare you stockpile food and do this to us. It's never their fault. It's never the zombies' fault for not preparing. It's the government's going to take care of me, and then when that fails them, how dare you have food and I don't have any food? But yeah, you're absolutely right. When that rush starts, it's over. The time to prep is over. Mary says my basement looks like a trading post. I'm gonna level with y'all, man. We're running out of room. My wife out back, she's got we only have 2 raised beds. It's not like we have 50 acres of farmland, okay, guys? But she's got pots everywhere. And we got 5-gallon buckets all over the place. We got the plastic pots. I mean, it's everywhere. It looks like a jungle out there. And we're running out of room to stack stuff. We really are. And I'm not sure what to do about it. I mean, it's literally in some spots stacked to the rafters. Like some of the survival food is touching the ceiling over in the corners. At least you're not alone. Jerry says my whole house looks like a freaking store, which it seems like a bad thing. But again, as they were just talking about, when the zombies start hoarding and the stuff's gone, you're going to be glad you got that store at home. At least you can, as much as we complain, and my wife's quick to complain, when she runs out of something, she doesn't have to go to the store and get it. Like, for example, steak sauce or ketchup. She just walks out back and she knows it's out here. Dehydrating instead of canning for space. Yeah, again, survival food and water's taking up quite a bit of space here as well. I mean, we have the Berkey, but we keep a lot of bottled water on hand. And we still have some of like the big Primos that I'm glad we have them, but I kind of wish we wouldn't have bought them because they're just odd shaped and you can't really stack them up. But yeah, and we plan on doing some more hardtack. My wife and I are both going to be making some more hardtack and Mylar and that stuff. You don't really need to Mylar it, but I think we're going to do it anyway, just so we can put it in a closet somewhere. Liz, that's an excellent point. Don't want to go to the stores when looters are hitting the stores, so you're going to see a bunch of outrage when the food starts to dry up and it's priced way too high. You've seen in some of the cities like San Francisco, I'm just going to use them for an example, where they go in and they grab and they go and they don't pay. You're going to start to see a lot more of that everywhere, I think, toward the end of the year as this stuff dries up. People don't have the money, but people also don't want to starve, so they're just going to rush in, grab what they, and violence is going to happen at that point. And so you want to pat yourself on the back a little bit if you've been prepping, because you can avoid that whole situation. Piney Woods, you are exactly right. The original prepper. They said Noah was crazy for building the ark. Lord Eagle, yes, get info on what is edible in the woods. Don't mention bugs to MD Creekmore. If y'all follow MD Creekmore, he got a comment one time, and anytime you mention it, he still gets upset. Somebody said, I'm not going to prep. I'll just go out and eat bugs in the woods when this happens. And he did a whole video on it. It's hilarious if you haven't seen it. I would recommend EF either a Berkey, excuse me, or a Berkey alternative. There are several different ones out there now, especially the filters. They can be very pricey, and if you don't have it in the budget, have something. You can go out and spend $40. They used to be $40. I don't know how much they are now. And they go on your counter. They're like the oh man, what is that company? There are different ones. Brita, I think, is what it's called. And the filters for the Brita, they all fit all of the models and stuff. And the Brita filters, although they're not as good as a Berkey, you can catch them a lot of times on clearance because it's not something a lot of people look at. So if that's your only budget, it's better than nothing. Sawyer Minis as well. Yeah, Sawyer Minis as well, but if you're looking at a family of 4, you're at least going to have 4 of those, or you're going to have something else. Yeah, we got it, Ink Scars. We got the Brita stuff as a backup. And, it's like the Berkey filters. Same concept. They last forever. As long as you don't damage them, they're kind of easy to break and stuff if you drop them. But as long as you don't damage them and you throw them on a shelf somewhere, they last forever. Talon, what's up, brother? Nice patch, by the way. Marcus is spot on. Stand by for the zombie storm. I don't know if we'll see it all at once. I think it's ramping up, and I don't know. What do y'all think? Are the zombies going to have that one moment where everybody just wakes up at once, or is it going to be gradual? Red Tire Hunter says, I've ate bugs. It ain't bad as you might think. Yeah, but that was this person's entire survival plan. And MD Creekmore went off on them. They do. The bitter critter, they do, and they're good to have. And as much as I don't care for the LifeStraw company itself, LifeStraws are pretty decent too. Zero water filters, hands down, better than the Berkey. Okay, there you go. I don't have any experience with that one. I know the Berkeys work okay. Ink Scar says, I have 10 Sawyer Minis. As long as you're catching them on sale, again, they're not running out, so you can just put them up on a shelf somewhere. I prefer the Sawyer Minis like in bug out bags and stuff. Excellent point. Roy says, answer on the zombies. It depends on what the news says. So if the news tells them to panic, they go and panic all at once. That's an excellent point. And if not, maybe they wake up a little bit here and there. Killer Bunny says, zombies woke up like it's Black Friday. If you see that all at once, wake up from these folks, that's what it's going to look like. If you've ever been to a Black Friday, Imagine a Black Friday where people are violent and the food is almost gone. That's what it's going to look like. It's just not going to be a safe environment. Never is. SHTF prepper, you're going to have that one day where they just wipe it all out. Now it'll be the dumbest things though. So yeah, they were hoarding toilet paper. So I guess they do have that hoard mentality. Yeah, I can see your comments, Harold. Now I don't know what it's going to take. I don't understand the non-prepper. I don't understand what it's going to take for them to actually wake up at this point. But when they do wake up, they don't care anything about you. It's them and only them, self-centered. John, Biden made amendments to the WHO treaty. Why would he do that if he's not going to sign it? I have no idea. I don't even recognize the WHO. I could care less. I get that it's important to most people, but they're not going to inject me with anything. They're not going to tell me what I can do with my own body. So the WHO, Biden, whoever, I don't care. Yeah, they're trying to pull shady stuff off, and most people will line up and they'll just do whatever because there's a piece of paper that's signed by Joe Biden. Well, Biden signed it, so we got to do it. But I ain't that guy. I ain't going to do it. I'm not. Joshua, yeah. Police just showed that they will not protect you, carry at all times. You have to. Number one, the police response time is laughable. And number two, again, when they get there, they're not always going to do what they're supposed to do. Who's ignoring you? Let me know, Catbird. Philly Flash. It starts slow and then it works into a frenzy. Yeah, you have to. Faraway prepper, you have to. Situational awareness right now, not just the person watching this or listening to this, but your family. Kids, especially if you have kids, make sure they practice situational awareness. It's not always easy to teach your kids to do this because we live in that generation where they're on the phone all the time or something. But get them used to that idea, when you're in a store, when you're out of town, whatever the case. Maybe make sure they have something like a tactical ink pen or a neck knife or something. Consider that if they're responsible enough to handle one and to be aware. Because it just takes a few seconds and that's it. Head on a swivel, exactly. No, I didn't, Brian. And I probably didn't see it for good reason. They probably buried it somewhere. As you're saying, mainstream isn't covering it. Yeah, you're free to email it to me. I didn't see it. That's the kind of stuff that it's allergies. I'm sorry, Marcia. I'm sorry if that's coming across on the microphone. That and the microphone's literally right here. I tried to move it out in front of me. Yeah. Well, I know it's a lot to ask this day and age. Kids being situationally aware. I watched one almost get hit by a car because they were on the phone. Yeah. I know I don't know anything about Pokemon, but when that whole craze was going on, people were walking off cliffs and stuff. So I get that it's a lot to ask right now, but try to have that conversation with your kids. Sit them down, explain to them why it's important. Maybe they'll listen. Who knows? So yeah, just remember why we're prepping, folks. Seems like a lot. Seems overwhelming. I got to go dump water buckets here in a little while into the catchment. It seems overwhelming. We're running out of room as we were talking, but remember why we're doing it so we can avoid the chaos later, the Black Friday type stuff. And before I jump into the chat, I want to mention this. I want to say this. 9/11, I was thinking about this last night. 9/11, that whole thing happened. We didn't ban the airplanes. What did we do? We reinforced the cockpits, right? We made them more secure. So I don't know if that's a fair parallel or not, but I would like to see schools be safer. Obviously, I don't want this stuff to happen, but I don't think banning guns is going to do anything when it comes to these bad guys. So just wanted to mention that before I get back into chat here. There's really not one best. People prefer, that's a great question, best commercial emergency food company to buy from. You have to factor in many different things. You know, some of it, it's a taste preference for people. Others, it's a budget issue. So Ready Wise is probably the cheap, on the low end of the spectrum because it's cheaper, and that's going to be best for some people because that's all they can afford. Nutrient Survival tends to be more expensive, but it is really good tasting. So, and there's tons in the middle there. I prefer middle of the road. Mountain House is pretty good. It's in the middle of the road. I do like that. Beans and rice, yeah. Buy beans and rice in bulk. If budget is a huge issue, it can be done much cheaper Mylaring food as opposed to the emergency food. Not me. No, I don't know who you're talking about. After they take your guns, they will lock you in your homes. Not me. Come on, Bobo. You know I can't throw that up on the screen. Augustin Farms, Kelly, they are good as well. They're having trouble keeping up with the demand right now. They've actually sent out memos saying, we don't know. There's several weeks to wait. And I think, I can't remember if it was My Patriot Supply or For Patriots. There's another company right now that's having huge issues keeping up with the demand is through the roof right now for this stuff, even with prices going up. Homestead Oz, real men eat beans, and they put A1 steak sauce in it, son. They put it in there. People laugh at me for doing it, but look, it's good that way. If you never tried it, put a teaspoon of A1 in there and mix it up with pinto beans, and y'all can thank me later. If you don't have a group of people to resist with, they will pick us all off one at a time, like fish in a barrel. Thank you and good morning, sir. Guess what? I've been doing a little writing. Are you shocked? But thank you for holding the Telegram channel down. I peek in about once a day. It gets a little crazy over there. Barbecue sauce and beans is pretty good too. I've tried that, Bama Gin. But yeah, I still prefer the A1. It's got more spice to it, as Jack is saying. Don't forget the spices. Yeah, that's exactly right. I've noticed that here as well. It's jumped up big time in price. And something else I've noticed is people that get the 72 hours, they think that's for a family. And it's not. That's one person, the caloric intake and stuff. So you really have to have a lot of that stuff. Now, the 72 hours, I do kind of like sometimes going camping for a couple of days. But the 72 hours, it ain't going to give you a lot of calories, and that's for one person. So even if you're going the survival food route, you still want to have a lot of stuff like non-perishable stuff to mix in and stuff. But yeah, that's an excellent point. It has went up big time. Oh, there's a shocker. Major train derailment in Canada. I haven't seen that yet. Key ingredient for fertilizer. Big shocker. That's kind of like losing them in a boating accident, right? I sold all my firearms during the pandemic to buy food and toilet paper. Don't remember who bought them. Can't remember. It slipped my mind. Thank you very much, Marcia. It's an awesome community. I will. Mountaineers are always free. Thank you. Yeah, it's the allergies. My wife has got me taking Sudafed right now, and I know it's Sudafed because she was complaining about the price of it. I'm like, what? I ain't worth it. I'm not worth a box of Sudafed every so often. Come on, man. Yeah, Queen. Not only is it a huge issue, but we touched on this last night. Somebody brought this up. It seems like all of the people doing this domestic stuff have at some point or another been flagged by the FBI, and I'm not quite sure why nothing was done about it. You know, the FBI, for whatever reason, was looking their way, and they just said, "Oh, they're good," and they go on down the road with it. And so a lot of this stuff could be prevented. Flonase. That's what the rich people. Ain't that what the the rich folks take? The Flonase. uh, I'll have to dig it out, Petite Prepper. We do have one. I'll have to dig that thing out. But I mean, it's ain't gonna do me a whole lot of good. I'm getting to where I have to mow every 5 or 6 days. So as soon as I kind of feel like relieved from it, I'm back out in the yard again doing something. But I feel like $1 million other than being tired. But that's because I was up so late last night. Of course, $1 million ain't what it used to be in Joe's America, right? Tony says, stop losing your guns. You're going to need them. Stop losing your guns. Stop trading them for food vouchers and gas gift cards and stuff, guys. Seriously, we're going to need them. Talon says, when you're hungry, you will eat whatever is there. I would even eat squirrel at that point. You know, if I ran out of everything else, I would go ahead and take the plunge, as Caveman James been telling me to do. But I don't really have a favorite. The best ones that I've had, my book editor, if he's still in here, he actually sent me over a box, and they were the real deal. I mean, they were the kind that you had to lay down on the floor afterwards. But I don't smoke them that often anymore. Yeah, I saw. Let me see here. Casey Little Owl recently did a video on edible seaweed, and I'm like, I don't know. I'll stack a little more food right now. If it comes down to it, I would eat it. Hey, I actually don't mind Spam, Douglas. I fry it. You know, a lot of people, they'll put it in eggs and they'll scramble it, but I like to cut off probably that much, just like double the width of a piece of bologna, if you will. I got to fry it up really good. It's got to be kind of brown on both sides and crispy. And then I put it on 2 pieces of bread with some mayonnaise. And I can eat it all day like that. Thank you. I couldn't remember. I still got the box around here, though. I don't think I've ever tried Spam and rice. I've tried it fried. I've tried it by itself, just fried on no bread. And I've tried it in eggs. It ain't bad with eggs. MacGyver prep and FBI flags everyone. Probably half the people in chat, myself included, we've probably been flagged for something. Marcus says you'll get nothing and like it 2030. Is this the real Marcus or is this the imposter Marcus? Because that's happened to me as well, brother. I'm just messing with you. Squirrel jerky. I don't know, man. I would eat it if I was hungry enough, but it's just there are other options out there right now, Michael, John, did you see where the USDA? Oh, there's another sterling organization right there. Just made a law: no government food for the schools unless I saw somebody. on Facebook submitted that, and I've got to approve it. What's happening on Facebook, I haven't checked it out though, Michael, but what's happening on Facebook is people will submit stuff and I have to actually hold it for a couple of hours because Facebook will flag certain things. And after a couple of hours, if they're going to flag it, they flag it. And then I just have to decline it and I post everything else. Law RC, as it stands right now, I don't think they need to. The West Coast, a lot of the West Coast would welcome them with open arms. I think China's more focused on Taiwan and fighting. I think they would fight over Taiwan, the U.S. or whoever was involved. I think they're willing to fight over Taiwan. Right now, the thing with taking the United States over is they don't really need to. They're buying the United States. They're buying industry. They've basically bought a lot of the universities through funding and money and stuff like this. They bought a lot of the organizations here, and I would argue the politicians here. And so they're just buying us out. We send them the money for things made in China. They use the money to buy the country. And I'm not a fan of the way that goes down. But I don't think they need to put boots on the ground here. I think we're getting to a point where half the country would welcome it. You know, capitalism evil. Yeah, let's let them come over. And once they come over, then you're talking about the real fight. Guns a-blazing at that point. Hopefully. Kenneth, thank you. My wife works at 911 dispatch, and they lose people like crazy monthly. I didn't realize that was a problem with dispatchers. And interviewees stand up their recruiters all the time. They can just show the unemployment office that they've applied and get their check. I knew this was a problem, but I didn't realize it was a problem with like 911 dispatchers and stuff. I figured those folks typically stay there for a while. I know it's happening in a lot of other industry and stuff right now, though. People on unemployment, nothing wrong with unemployment, but people look at it like a career path. You know, it's the same thing with food stamps and other assistance. Nothing wrong with it. If you're in a position where you need help, you should get help, but it shouldn't be a career path. You know, we shouldn't have 22-year-olds aspiring to live on welfare for the rest of their natural born life here in the United States. Now, it's totally different if they're completely disabled, you know, but as long as they're able to work. I mean, folks, I've met people that get disability checks for hoarding, and they have kids, and so their kids get disability checks. I think that's how it works every month because the parent gets a check for hoarding. I'm like, you got to be kidding me right now. This is, you know, and then you have people out here that are wheelchair bound being told, oh, you can still go in and you can do this and you can do this. The system doesn't work. Most of us know that, right? VR Lab Girl says dispatchers work very hard. They deserve much more credit. I can't imagine having that type of responsibility. Very important job. I just didn't realize turnover was so bad right now. Pilgrim, we went over the poll. It's overwhelmingly billionaires can be trusted more than politicians, and I do agree with that. But that poll came from Elon Musk over on Twitter. No tie today. Are you kidding me? Come on, Ray Charles. Look at this beautiful tie. I did some digging on it, Bama Jen. There's certain things that I know going in, if I cover it, it's going to immediately be slapped down by YouTube. That's one of the things. You know, you get into some of the, if I start dropping too many names, for example, the overlords, if you will, they'll slap me down for that as well. If you mention too much about trafficking and putting a stop to it and pedophile, you know, putting a stop to all that stuff, they'll put you in timeout for that here on CommieTube. So I did look into it, but I don't know if it's something I can cover here. It may be something I can cover on Rumble and maybe shoot over to Patreon or something. The dude says no one should get a check. Look at the physically challenged at Walmart working. That's an excellent example. I've seen the same thing. Physically challenged, out there working, doing it every day, 5-6 days a week. And then you have people out here that could work and they're choosing not to work, and they've made a career out of figuring out how to game the system and get free money for existing. And that's the part I don't like. There needs to be some reform there for sure. Rand, our local Kroger is hoarding their store brand peanut butter in the back room. Wow. Hubby had to ask for it to buy it. I know that, what is it right now? Is it Jif? Is it Skippy or Jif, y'all, that has a recall right now? And it's affecting a lot of other products because a lot of other products are using that brand of peanut butter. But hoarding is a bad sign. I've had people inbox and say they're putting 2 or 3 on the shelf. They work in grocery and they have a bunch in the back. And they're only putting 2 or 3 out at one time because people are buying it up. And they're trying to avoid it. Jif, thank y'all. I knew it was one or the other. BBB, I'm sorry. This happens to a lot of people, unfortunately. A lot of people will come in and they will watch this channel or other channels, and they're here almost every day because they leave a comment after the fact, but they don't subscribe. And then you have people that do subscribe, it takes a second or something, and they get unsubscribed. And unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about it. I wish I could, but they got to keep us in the basement. They have to. Izzy, I had to return 8. I'm guessing jars of Jif. That's not good. Lucky dog, family with 12 kids, all paid by welfare. And again, I'm not trying to, I'll level with y'all. When we were younger, we got assistance for a while. My mom was a single parent. She was working. She just wasn't working a great job. And she was going through college. So she was doing college and she was working. She eventually, she got into hospice nursing and was able to get off of welfare. But we did need it for a while. So there are good people out there that do need it. It's just so heavily abused by people that don't really need it. And it's, it's bankrupted the country. Yeah, I was poor growing up. I can eat a lot of things. Outlaw Prepper calls it, Jack, he calls it mayonnaise sandwiches without the bread because he grew up similar situation. So when we go camping, we talk about this a lot, the poor times. Getting the cheese in the mail. Cheese used to come, I think it was in a brown rectangular box. And I think it was powdered milk and maybe peanut butter we got every so often. I don't really remember now, but I can remember being excited about it. Because food insecurity, these kids don't know nothing about food insecurity compared to back in those days. And my wife, I'll close with this. It's a funny story, though. Anywhere we go, I'm like, I don't waste food. And my wife's like, honey, you have food now. You don't have to eat everything in sight. I can't stand the idea of throwing food away, wasting food, stuff like this. Even my kids call me out on it. I'm like, y'all don't even realize how lucky you are compared to back when I was your age. I sound like such a older person saying that now that I hear myself say it. Back when I was your age, we didn't have food, son. Yeah, I'll close with this. At Davos, they're talking about a lot of stuff. They're talking about a carbon tracker, as Jane is saying, but if you have not been keeping an eye on this meeting is basically a meeting of the elites of the world trying to figure out how to stay in power. So do a little research on that, and you will figure out some bad things are being talked about over there in the name of being green, and the agenda is at play. That's pretty much all I can say on that. But there's a lot of distraction going on right now. People are looking at a bunch of different ways right as they're having this meeting. And all of the typical suspects, the billionaire suspects. They're over there making deals right now. So definitely look into it. I may find a couple of links and drop those here on Patreon shortly. But I appreciate everybody being here this morning. And again, Squatch America, thank you for the Bigfoot blend. It is awesome. I don't know how much it costs, but I'm going to go to their website and check it out. It's pretty good coffee. God bless y'all. Thank y'all for being here. Again, the replay of the private chat will hit tomorrow night at 9:15 p.m. God bless y'all.